Let's see, record. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Raphael from Windhorse Transformation, and I've got Robert J. Tettero, who I call Jade, and I think all his good friends do. So, good morning, Jade. How are you in Tenerife,
Good morning.
Spain?
Good morning. Good morning. It's hot over here. It's wonderful.
It
It's
sounds
nice.
wonderful. It's cooling down over here. So Jade does breath work, and I am so grateful to have, I've done three sessions with Jade, one in Sedona, one in Gallup, New Mexico, and we did one a couple of days ago. That was fantastic, Jade. It was really a monumental event in my life of exploration, discovery, and release. Doing this breath work with Jade, and we did that over a Zoom so people can get a hold of Jade from anywhere in the world and schedule a meeting with them. And Jade, for those of us who are new to breath work, and I was taught by the Koreans that there are 47 different ways to breathe, and you have a very unique thing that you teach. Could you tell us about that and the work and its benefits to people?
Um, yeah, let me backtrack. I was always looking for something in my life. Way back when I was so much younger, many people always approached me, elderly people approached me, that I had some kind of a gift, that I was clairvoyant, and I had no clue what they were talking about. I ended up studying business. I started working as a management consultant, and and then I just got sick. I was like, what am I doing in this world? This is what I've studied for. This is what I want to make my life uh, uh, with. I was like, this is not it. So now what?
So you got sick, like not physically, but emotionally. You were unhappy with what you were doing.
No, also physically.
Oh,
Also
okay.
physically, because I was just in a world. I was working like 60 to 70 hour weeks on all kinds of projects, huge, multi-million dollar projects. And and I thought to myself, if I continue on this path, I'm not going to be living very long. I seriously had that thought. And I had one CEO who apparently had observed me while I was on one of these projects in the metal industry in Luxembourg. And he called me over to his office and he said, "Hey, Robert, what do you want in life?" And I sort of gagged. I didn't know what to say, and I was holding my breath. And he kept repeating that question over and over. What do you want in life? What do you want in life? And I just felt so much pressure being put on the spot. And at some point, the only thing that came out of my mouth was, I want to be happy. And then he looked at me and he said, well, then what are you still doing here? That was amazing, and these one-liners, I had many people in my life that came along with these one-liners that just set me on the right track. And I left the company immediately and was still sort of elusive of what I wanted to really be doing. But I picked up these books of Carlos Castaneda that really inspired me, which many people might know, but he was an anthropologist who for his thesis at the University of Los Angeles, wanted to study the effects of peyote hallucinogenics with a northern Mexican shaman. So, well, these books just really triggered a lot of things in me, and I felt some level of truth in it. And ultimately, I ended up being in the States, in the Southwest of the United States, in the same area where these stories of Carlos Castaneda and his brujo, his shaman, Don Juan Matus, where these stories took place. And I ended up learning so much from the native people there, women and men and shamans from all different kinds of tribes.
Wow.
And I just really opened up to these very essential questions that I was looking answers for, which was, who am I? What am I doing on this planet? What am I doing here on Earth? And where will I be going if I leave my body? These essential questions had been continuously coming up, and I was so compelled by it that I wanted to find answers, and I completely changed my life. So to cut a long story short, I'd been doing shamanism as my personal development, but it wasn't until I had tried my first breathwork session, also known as rebirthing, or simply what I call conscious breathing, conscious connected breathing. And I was lucky to have been able to have been taught at the source from Leonard Orr and Sondra Ray, the pioneers who had sort of accidentally rediscovered this breathing. Breathing is ancient,
Right.
breathing is ancient, but it was just lost in the West. It's used in all forms of meditation. It's used in all forms of martial arts. It's used in all forms of tantra practices.
And even military.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So it was just amazing. My first session, for the first time in my life, I knew that what I was meant to be doing. And I've been doing this, bringing breath work into the world for more than 30 years.
For 30 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the most interesting thing is that after all these years, I came back into the business world through the back door, helping entrepreneurs and business owners achieve complete success. What is complete success? I mean, yeah, is it the money on your bank? Or is it enjoying the money you have on your bank because
The
you still have your
feeling.
health?
Yeah.
Right?
Excellent.
So it's just wonderful to be able to bring the breathing discipline to help people completely bring into balance all the physical stuff that we haven't dealt with, a lot of emotional stuff that we haven't worked through in our lives that we've suppressed, all the mental stuff that's going on, and the spiritual, just bringing all these different realities into alignment is amazing, and reconnecting what I call the heart-mind coherency.
Right.
And this breathing discipline, which is such a simple and effective technique, I don't even want to call it a technique, but a discipline, to be able to bring you back to your center, literally come back home to who you really are, as opposed to everything you think you need to be in order to succeed.
So when I worked with you, maybe 3.5 weeks ago, I met you in Sedona, and I was so happy that Brenda and I were able to catch you at the right moment. And we jumped in some water breathing advanced. You told me this is very advanced. And the group, the Dutch and German group that you were with, they had been working with you for a while. And my experience was the very first time I was totally shocked. I couldn't breathe for 5 seconds when I started doing the work. But my partner Brenda, she'd never been in the water before. She was floating, snorkeling. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what's wrong? Why can't I do this? And why is she doing it? And you said something to the effect of, she's not holding in. You've been holding up a lot in your body, Raphael. Then some days later, I met you in Gallup. We did a private session in the hotel there, and I that was very interesting, Jade, because we did a session. I thought we were done. I started to get up, and that's when I thought I was gonna die. I mean, and then I took a breath. I was fighting for life. I took a breath, and you grabbed me, and I remember seeing your face saying, "Welcome to Earth." And so I got that rebirthing part. But the third session, I see myself advancing, being able to do the work more. even though I've done a lot of breath work with my training with the Korean masters, this is totally different and is very effective. I felt my whole body was vibrating. I thought it was just bubbling up, and you were observing me, telling me, okay, slow it down, watch your breathing. But I became aware of many things that I was holding exactly where in my body I've been holding things for a long year. I also became aware that they were dissolving, and this was a wonderful practice. And there were many things I became aware of. I've always been obsessed with flying, and I was sharing with you that, oh, now I know how people levitate. I've literally seen people float and levitate in my life in certain moments, and I feel now how they do it. And you looked at me and said, you know, if anybody was watching you, and by the way, I don't do drugs at all. A teaspoon of caffeine in the morning and 10 cups of water. But you told me anybody that's watching you right now would probably think you're on mushrooms. So I'd had this experience without the psychotropics, which is what I was looking for. Because I don't
Exactly.
want to go like the David Hawkins route of dropping acid or something, or doing mushrooms. And I see now we can do this work without the psychotropics. And so my question to you is, how do you see you work with a bunch of different people? Do you see them having different experiences and different results?
I wouldn't say different results. It all comes to the same thing, literally, again, releasing whatever it is that is still holding us back of being completely in the here now,
Mhm.
manifesting the things that we want, living our dream, uh, and that's all connected to an open and relaxed breath is just really amazing. So the result is always the same. It's about letting go of whatever it is that's still blocking you on all these levels, on the physical, emotional,
Okay.
mental, and the spiritual, so that now the thoughts that I have and the desires that I have that I project into the world are reflected back to me as it is intended. So I always say when life isn't going the way I want, when things show up in my life that I don't want, then it's still because of something in me that needs to change. Thought patterns,
Right.
old beliefs that I'm still harboring, through all kinds of conditioning. So the result is the same. It's finally allowing to step aside and allowing your body to do what your body was meant to do in moments of stress. That is, to take an expanded breath. But because of the stress, because of all our expectations, because of things that we haven't dealt with in our lives, we're literally repressing our life force, thereby holding on to our breath, and we keep breathing more and more superficially. So what happens when you open up your breath again? Obviously, the things that we're holding on to are going to start coming up. But whatever it is that is coming up, and when I say coming up, to my conscious awareness, because how do I know what I have to let go of if I'm not aware, if I'm not conscious
Mm.
of that, what I have to let go of? So it's these aha moments during a session, like you said, oh yeah, I became aware of so many things.
Right.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that we weren't aware of it previously. We weren't even aware that birth trauma could still be influencing us, or
Hmm.
past lives could still be
Right.
influencing us,
Big
or
time.
certain events in our lives where we made a specific decision when maybe my father or my mother left me, that I said, well, I can't trust men anymore, or I can't trust women anymore. These were decisive moments that shaped my whole life. So so it's all about just releasing, but in such a loving and gentle way, not reliving your trauma again. Absolutely not. But releasing the energetic imprint of certain experiences that were left behind.
So
And you just start,
observing and releasing it as opposed to ignoring and repressing it, and over time
Exactly.
not even being aware.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, memories can come up that might spook somebody, which is why you
Mhm.
need somebody there to keep you grounded and to help you through that process, just to remind you, hey, wait a minute, open your eyes, look at me. Nothing is happening here now. Nothing at all. It's an old memory and a releasing of that pain that you experienced then there in that event with that particular person. Everything that comes up for the purpose of healing and release. It's over and done with, which is the magnificence of the breath. It's really miraculous. It's so beautiful.
That has been my experience, Jade. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I was
You know, it's even so simple, and that's where I do warn people, because when you see somebody just applying this very simple open inhale, relaxed exhale, and connecting the breath in a circular way, people are like, oh, I can do this. So they go home and start doing themselves and or start inviting other people to do it when they have no experience whatsoever. So you
right.
really need to be schooled. You need to be educated. You need to have worked through your own stuff in order to be able to be there for another person and really know what to do. Because when you start changing something, you have to change it on all levels. You have to be prepared to want to change everything in your life. The problems that we are confronted with in our lives cannot be resolved by the same mind that created the problem in the first place. It
Right.
has to come from something new in me.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that when we did a couple of sessions, I was like, oh, this is simple. I can do that. And then I go, wait a minute. That's what I said. And I've heard a lot of people say about working with fantastic energy masters like Ilchi Lee, who can literally push me down from 20 feet away. I
Right,
remember
right.
telling to people who came to our workshops, what do you think of this? And they said, well, he keeps saying the same things. It's pretty simple. I'm going, yeah, life is really simple. We need to pay attention to that. However, there's a plethora of work that we need to be
Absolutely.
guided with. Some of us
Absolutely.
don't have. Myself, I've throughout my life, I've noticed I've been haunted by very distinct memories of past lives. Some of them where I'm about to leave life, and also haunted by things that happened in my childhood, in my life, things I've been exposed to. Being in prison when I was a young man, which I was eventually released, and my charges were thrown out. It was a self-defense issue. But being around people who I even later interviewed, serial killers, um, these things are very haunting. These emotions that we may not be aware of, and I am certainly aware of where I am holding them in my body now. So when you guided me, I was thinking earlier before we did our session, our third session, that oh, I can just do the breath work, and just like you said, I can do the breath work and I can teach it to others. But then when you guided me, you were showing me, keeping me on track with different levels. And so it is very crucial to have a mentor such as yourself. Um, so
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
you,
Absolutely.
and you work with people all over the world, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
just
correct.
came back from Italy, you were in Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, I love it. I really found my passion, and uh, how does that relate to breath work? I mean, everything you say about your breath is what you say about life. When people lie down and find it difficult breathing, what they're really saying is, I find my life so difficult. So, so this is such a beautiful way to augment, their lives using their breath to increase their joy and aliveness and becoming aware of the patterns that have been holding them back. Therefore, changing their reality and changing their lives. And I get letters every day of people just thanking me, although I don't need any, any recognition. They have done it themselves. It's the breath that I give the credit to. You know, it's just so amazing that I continue to do this to this very day, and I'm completely passionate about bringing breath still today to the people in the world.
And who do you think this applies to? Who do you think can benefit from breath work?
As far as I'm concerned, everybody,
Yeah.
everybody, everybody, and I dare say that 95% of the people are actually subventilating. Nobody is breathing the way they actually should be breathing. You know, if I just look at the way we came into the world and our umbilical cords were cut too soon, I mean, it takes at least 3 hours before all the nutrients, are given to the baby, to the newborn, through the placenta. Why
Hmm.
cut the umbilical cord? And that's the first moment where we actually
Wow.
harm our breathing apparatus. Why? The child isn't breathing
Hmm.
yet because the lungs are still full of the amniotic fluid. Then they stick a tube down your throat to empty out your lungs. Meanwhile, whether it's 20 seconds, a half a minute, sometimes even longer, the child is suffocating, right? No air supply. You took him off life support. And the first breath he takes is the moment where he gets spanked on the butt or hung upside down, and he's like gasping for air. Well, in this one breath, everything is contained. I can't get enough love. I cannot get enough money. There's not enough support. I don't trust people. All these kinds of thought patterns are connected to the very first moments that you have been touched by other human beings. Guess why we're always struggling in our lives? Guess why we're still fighting wars? Seriously, it doesn't make
Another way
sense
of
to me.
thinking, another moment of thanking Western medicine for not not being healers. That's
Yeah, right,
a big
right.
a big rub of mine. And what age groups do you have you worked with, Robert?
Uh, I
Jade,
have
I mean,
a, I have a lot of, I have a lot of parents call me up. Can you fix my child?
really?
And, and I'm
Wow.
like, no. Why don't you,
Yes.
why don't you come and breathe first? Because your child is only reflecting you.
Mm.
If you can't deal with your child, it's because you have not dealt with certain issues
Okay.
around your parents having dealt with you and conditioned you. And the moment you resolve whatever it is you think the problem is you have with your child, when you resolve that for you, the problem just disappears because it's not about our children. However, uh, I had a teacher call me up for I like third graders, and she's like, they're coming in from the break, and I can't get them to calm down. I know you do breath work. Can you come in and do something with the kids? I'm like, sure. So I had a
Wow.
lot of fun with these kids. I put them in a circle, and I'd blow up a balloon, and I'd walk around, and right in front of a couple of children, I'd stick a pin in the balloon, and it would explode, and the children would all go,
Yeah.
well, if you look at what's happening there, that's our first breath we took. When we were choking
Oh.
and we couldn't breathe, and our first breath when we were slapped on the butt. So you see what happens under stress, under fear, under excitement. We hold our breath. So I was just showing them in particular situations when we're sad, when we're crying, what we do with our breath. And they were all really interested. So then I said, okay, come on, children, I'll show you a great way how to breathe in a form of meditation. You know what meditation is? So I went into that a little. But the most beautiful thing is that when I started applying this breath with these kids, I saw like kids, according to how they were born, were grouped together. So I could see the children whose mothers had had anesthesia during their birth. These children were grouped together, and within like 3 breaths, they were going unconscious. They were like getting really sleepy and all of a sudden started leaning against each other because the anesthesia is still, we call that limbic imprinting, is still in the body at cellular level. All the children that had had birth trauma, they were afraid to breathe. And all the children that had had beautiful births were like going at it as if it was nothing. They were so happy and they were all enjoying themselves and they were feeling the energy. It was just amazing. And then once we saw these children together, I could explain to the teacher what patterns, behavioral patterns all these children had. She's like, damn, it's right. You're right. It's unbelievable. All these children that had birth trauma don't trust me whatsoever. There were children I couldn't get to talk, so I had to get some other children, right, to get them to open up because they couldn't trust adults because the birth team, right, who
Tried to
brought
kill
this
him.
child to the world, exactly. Yeah, well, that's the message that they got. Tried to kill me, exactly. So that
Wow.
was beautiful. So, but basically, I've worked with children, let's say, from around 12 upward, because smaller children, uh, they 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 comprehend, they can understand. I mean, I never talk down to children, so they know intuitively. You know, when you ask children about their birth, they'll tell you. They'll know. You know, there's one child that was like 3 years old. I said, "What do you know about your birth?" He says, "Oh, it was really great until they came and get me." So I look at the
Oof.
mother and said, "Oh, was your child's a C-section?" She goes, "Yeah, how do you know?" Well, he just said it until they came to get me,
Wow.
you know.
Interesting.
But so intuitively they know, but they can't really change these patterns until they're somewhat older because
Right.
they still don't have the tools to really be able to understand, you know, how these patterns start ruling your life.
So my big aha moment right now is, wow, my partner Brenda is from the Navajo Zuni reservation. She seems to be very good at letting things go. And she probably had a much more natural birth than I did. And when I landed in Seattle, Washington, and um, I don't know what happened during my birth. It's very questionable where I was born and what happened, but it was obviously not conducive to the
Right,
environment.
right. Yeah, I don't know how it is with the Navajo, but I do know of the Hopi because I spent a lot of time in the Southwest,
Mhm.
and and also bringing the gift of breath work to the people there. My I would say native family, but
Mhm.
I do know of the Hopi that once the child is born, the mother and the babe, they still stay in a dark room for I think about 7 days, you
Right.
know, before
It's
it's
5 days, I
introduced.
believe, with the Navajo,
Five,
is what
okay,
Brenda told
okay.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yes, you know, in
Wow.
helping the child transition in a gentle, loving way.
How
It's so
considerate
important.
of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Giving us our moment together. It is the beginning of my life. Right. And and then on the opposite end, when you work with older people, and yeah, I'm still, pretty emotionally, I'm just a little boy, but I'm in my 60s, how in my early 60s, when you work with older people, um, I mean, you work with a lot of older people, of course.
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't consider 60 being older, but
No, it's to me, it's the beginning of my next journey.
right, right, right.
Thank you.
But I also do work with elderly people, which is
Mhm.
really amazing. The
Okay.
oldest person I worked with was around 86,
Okay.
somewhere around 86, or even 90. He might have been 90. That was in France, which was unbelievable. Yeah, and a woman of 87. And in a 3-day seminar, it was unbelievable because in the last day, she just broke down and she finally started crying. And she's like, there you go. You see, you got me that far. You got me that far. Because she was trying to hang on and try to be strong.
Mhm.
She survived the war, the Second World War. So, you know, she only learned to be strong and to deal with the cards that were dealt her, right? They didn't have the tools then and there. They just had to do with what they got. So she was still trying to be strong, but finally the third day after, 3 breathing sessions, she just couldn't hold it anymore and everything just came out. It was just such a liberating moment for her. It was just unbelievable, you know, to see her just bloom. It's never too late, let's put it that way. And the thing
Right.
is, whatever it is we haven't dealt with in our lives, whether you're conscious of it or not, I'll tell you, the moment of passing, your death becomes a hell because that's when everything just comes crashing down on you and you haven't dealt with anything at all in your life, never had any level of self-reflection. What are you going to do now in the last moments and the last breaths you are going to take? A lot of people can't let go because there's so much unfinished business.
Right.
That's really sad. And the longer you hang on to your patterns, the harder it gets to get rid of them. You know,
And
doesn't make
thus
it
the
easier.
importance of rebirthing that term. It makes
Yeah,
even more sense now. So you can
absolutely.
eventually get through your life too. You have a good
Yeah,
housing.
yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely. And this is the reason why I say everybody should learn this discipline of breathing because it's just if you want to call it health maintenance, not just for all other practical purpose, but just to maintain your health. 70% of all our toxins are released through our breath.
right.
So if I'm not breathing correctly anymore, I'm starting to hold all these toxins in my body as well. So in the long run, my body's just going to start acting up,
Yeah,
you
when
know?
my health clients ask me, how do you raise your energy? I tell them breathing, hydration, and movement. Please get off your butt and
Yeah,
get the
yeah, yeah,
energy moving through your
yeah.
body. So
And and
breathing
and earthing,
and earthing, being
earthing.
grounded.
Yeah, walk barefoot as much as you possibly can.
Mhm.
All our shoes are now, our soles of our shoes are all plastic. So we're not grounded anymore. So take off your shoes, walk, through the sand, through the dirt, through the grass. It's so essential.
I don't
We're
think
just not
people
grounded
know that
anymore.
if you take a little voltage meter
Correct.
and check your voltage with the earth. If you're wearing shoes, there's no voltage. If you take your shoes off, you'll actually see a little electricity. So yeah,
Exactly.
we had a friend who graciously donated us some Sedona Red Rock pathway in the morning. I'll go out
Oh, perfect.
bare feet and
Yeah,
walk on
yeah,
that. And I just getting these rituals, these practices, as you call them, is very crucial. And so I
yeah,
help people 55 to 65, who are having a spiritual awakening, begin the new journey of their life. And I see now that I will refer them to this breath work because if you knew that you're holding all this stuff in your body and you wanted to live your life, why would you not do this work? Why
right.
on earth?
Yeah, yeah.
So what are you doing now? You go around the world, you meet people, you do it on Zoom. How do you connect with people, Jade?
Uh, I go wherever people invite me to go, to speaker events, which I just love doing,
Yeah.
talking about all kinds of different topics, how to face challenge, what is success? What is absolute success? Is there such thing as absolute success? Is there something as absolute knowing? You know, looking at the universal principles that governs us when we understand these natural laws. it makes our life so much easier. Look, life was meant to be easy. We came here to learn how to manifest, to co-create. Let's do this together, you know. But I experience so much separation, and with everything that's been going on in the world, you know, it's creating an even stronger, you know,
Separation.
uh, pull away of unifying the human race and our species. So
So we're not
we're really
connected.
no, we're really at a crossroad, but a
Mhm.
very instrumental one. I don't think we've ever been in front of this kind of a challenge in
Challenge, yes.
in thousands of years. So it's a huge opportunity, a
Mhm.
huge opportunity. So it's like, yes, this is the time of the quickening, the
The
awakening.
rebirth.
Yeah, the rebirth. So
Cool.
you know, I'm still so enthusiastic to bring breathwork to the world, but you know, me and my partner Carlina, we also give tantric initiation trainings for couples and shamanic work. You know, and shamanic work is a really big thing. You know, I would never call myself a shaman or a healer, not at all, and I wouldn't even pretend to be. But uh, what that means to me, because like I said, before I did any form of breath work, I did a lot of shamanic work. I was apprenticing with a Native American Hopi medicine man for more than
Mhm.
16 years, and other people that I met on my path. So to me, shamanism is like working with the elements. You know, if somebody's, I mean, there's nothing, not a better way to get somebody to shut up, if I may put it that way, by just taking a drum and start beating this drum, right? He can't get his mind going anymore. So you push him into his body, into his feeling center, right? Because the
Being
mind,
present is
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
huge. Getting
yeah,
out of your mind. All the
exactly.
tremendous experiences that I've had in my life, they're really, that most people would not believe have always been when I'm out of here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll get my drum back off the wall.
Yeah, good, good, good. But you're right about that. You know, it's about, and this is what I observe continuously when people do breathwork sessions. There's a moment where they completely suspend their breath and they're in a state of trance, in a higher state of consciousness, and they're working through certain things because you see their eyes, you know, rapid eye movement, you see the moving. So it's like a movie's running across their, right, their eyes. And they go into this place of complete silence. So the mind just shuts off, and now they're in the body. Now they're just feeling in the body. It's like so oxygenated. It doesn't have to even take a breath. It's just there in suspension.
Oh, okay.
And the healing that takes place at that moment is just so beautiful to witness. It really is. You know, all kinds of traumas, also of accidents, of operations they've had, of near-death drowning, where all of a sudden, because the mind is now out of the picture, because the mind is the one that's creating the fear. Oh, no, no, I don't want to let this come up for healing. The mind is shut off. Then all of a sudden, the body just starts releasing the energy of that moment where you had that near-death experience and your body was going at 200 miles an hour, your central nervous system, and that energy got stuck in your body when you went unconscious.
Tremendous amount of energy. That
And
was
you've
my
never
experience.
released it. And you've never
Right.
released it. And so this breathing discipline also helps you release these kinds of forms of trauma. It's just
Yes.
amazing. It's really
It
all round, just amazing work.
What was amazing to me is just like you described it. felt the energy of, flipping that motorcycle, falling out of that car, jumping out of that plane and landing wrong, falling off that cliff when I was 18 and being literally pushed back, but falling 3 years ago, all these things, I felt in my body where I was holding that, all that
Right,
trauma.
right,
And
right,
there was even a moment where I looked at my family members and I was feeling them and seeing them and saying, no, I'm not going to shut up. I am going to be myself and have my feelings and show my
right.
feelings. And that all came up. It was a tremendous experience. Yeah, at one point I thought I was going to blow up and have pieces of Raphael all over the ceiling and wall. But you guided me to bring my breathing down. Thank you. And I want to mention something. A lot of us are familiar with a movie and a book called The Secret, which talks about the law of attraction. And I want to mention something else that I write about in my book. It's time for you to rewrite your life, which is Spirit appeared in my yoga room and told me that I needed some direction there. I want to talk about the promise, not the secret, but the promise of what our life can be like, right, Jade, when we do this work, when we do work on raising our consciousness. And an example of that will be after my assistant died in 2017. About a month later, I was so exhausted. Some people call it caretaker burnout, but also I was doing the meditations I was taught. I was not in my head. I remember going down to the garden, going to pick a weed out from around a plant, a squash plant at our farm here, and I had no will to pick the weed. I just looked at it and then I straightened up. I wasn't thinking anything, but I had no will. I was what my Korean teachers may have called of desperate mind. and and I looked up, and for a few seconds, my promise to people is that when you do this work, the universe will be revealed to you where you are. And I literally saw the energy of everything. And I stood up, and even my fingertips were of the same pixelated colors of everything. And I thought, what does this mean? Now I'm back in my head, and it all went away.
Right, right.
So it's like I said, right, Jay, why would we not want to do this work, knowing that we weren't living our life to full success? Look at you. You were here is this guy who was working in the business management world, and they're asking you, what do you want out of life, Jade? And now you're here going, I'm really excited. I'm still motivated. Here we are
Yeah,
in the Great Awakening.
yeah, yeah,
Where do you
yeah.
see yourself going with that?
Um, well, first of all, I just wanted to mention it's not a promise.
Right.
I tell people I'm not promising you anything.
Hmm.
I am guaranteeing you it.
Okay.
You know, I guarantee you all ancient scriptures are saying the same thing. I guarantee you this and more shall be given unto you. Can you handle it? That's the only question.
Can you
But
handle that?
it's a guarantee.
Hmm.
And
Wonderful.
and once we get that, because what we have to do is overcome our fear. Because the way I see it is our whole planet and the way we were indoctrinated is all fear driven.
Hmm.
Oh, if you don't get your degree, you're not going to be anybody. You're not going to get a good job. Oh, if you don't do this and that, oh, you're going to get sick. And if you don't do this and that, all these kinds of things that are just pressuring us and keep us in a
Media, every
low,
day in the media.
yeah, in a
Hmm.
low vibrational field.
Right.
So, so also here again, when you start breathing, you're just raising your frequency. And lo and behold, before you know it, without you actually really doing anything at all, it's just because you're in a higher vibrational field, all of a sudden things start manifesting on its own accord. You know, I had a
Yes,
thought.
they do.
Yeah, I have a thought. I need a car. And this mechanic, a friend of mine who came to Italy to do some work with us there, uh, he overheard me saying, "Oh, we got to get an extra car here because we're out in the country. So if I'm gone, Carolina is without a car." So I said, "Oh, don't worry, I have a car for you."
Oh,
You know,
cool.
yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
this computer.
it's
I
like you
didn't have
keep
a
it, you keep
computer,
it.
and yeah,
Yeah,
we I got this computer before I went on a vacation with Brenda, which is a manifestation in itself. We were told by her work. We got through this manifestation workshop I participated in, and she came home from work, and this was just a few weeks ago, and she said, they're pulling a 2080 on me. I go, what's that? They said, I have to take a 3-week paid vacation or I'm going to get fired. I'm like, okay. And then all my laptops are obsolete and they're not working. I was afraid I couldn't make my meeting, my Zooms. And so I get this call from this guy. Said, "Hey, I heard you used to own a roofing company years ago, and you have computer problems. We can give you this new computer here. If you come and inspect my roof for me, I can help you out with that." Yeah, I mean the manifestations are amazing. How can
right,
people get a hold of you, Jade? You've got a website. So my website is windhorsetransformation.com. Yours is manalifesource.com.
right. Correct. Mana Life Source, MANNA LifeSource.com,
Dot com.
or on Facebook under Robert Jade Tettero. And Jade is spelled JAYD.
That's right.
Jade. Robert
Jayd,
J.
Jade.
Tettero.
And
I changed my name because of the numerological configuration. Robert John Tettero, my Christian name, didn't ring so well with me because John was actually the doctor who saved my life shortly before birth. And the way that affected me in my life is that I literally owed people my life. So I would always sacrifice everything for other people, which had a downside,
mm,
which is I always forgot myself in the process.
yeah,
So I
so
wanted to change the
all right.
vibration, and JA, I wanted to keep the J in there, and I thought, well, we had a child that we lost. His name was Jaden, and I thought, well, Jade, I'll keep the J, but JADE didn't come to the right numerological configuration that I wanted. So I changed it into JAYD, and it's perfect because Robert J. Tettero comes to a vibrational configuration of the number 6, and 6 is governed by the planet Venus, and Venus is the planet of love. So that was
Beautiful.
perfect. Yeah. So,
Excellent. And
yeah, I'm on Facebook, Robert J. Tettero, or on Instagram.
And
And,
your email is robert at manalifesource.com.
.com, correct. Yeah.
Robert at manalifesource.com. Excellent. Wow, you've got all that work done on figuring out your name and the astrology, and those are all my weak points, and that's why I have like other people on my Facebook group. You also have a Facebook group. I noticed it's called New Era, New
New era.
ERA.
Yeah, we're actually heading into the new era. The new 20, what is it, 25,700 cycle. We came out of the Satya Yuga, but in the
And
Bible
it's
they
about
talk of
breath
the,
work.
yeah, yeah. We're yeah, well, the new era stands for the European Rebirthing Association.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So anybody that wants to know anything about breath work, and have questions, they can post their questions there.
There you go.
If they've had any rebirthing experiences that they can share there with the people that join there. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's welcome.
Excellent. So they can get a hold of you at monolifesource.com. They can email at you at robert at monolifesource.com. and they can reach you on New Era European Rebirth Association.
Yeah. It's like a separate page on my Facebook account.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're probably best they could get a hold of you easier either doing email or on your Facebook page or at your website. So is that how you prefer to be reached, through Facebook or your email?
Uh, email is always best,
Sure.
and they can certainly always call me. You know, my the number, my telephone number, which is a Dutch telephone number, is also on Facebook. But
Yeah.
through that number, they can also reach me on WhatsApp or Telegram. So they can always send me a message that way, and I will always contact them myself.
And that's how I
Uh,
communicate with JAYD, is through WhatsApp. And I've been
yeah,
working with his wife Carolina. I call her Khalij for about through the 6 month Peter Sage EMF program. And it was talk about manifesting. It was so tremendous. I'm working with Carly, your wife, and a bunch of other people. And then she tells me, and she's telling me about your breath work. And I'm like, well, how can I do that? Then she tells me, you're in town. You're in Sedona. I'm like, come on, Brenda. And let's go.
yeah.
That
It
worked
was
out.
nice seeing you. Yeah, it was perfect. It was wonderful because you
Yeah, I was so
came right
excited.
at the moment we were doing the cold water sessions. Yeah,
Right. Which
which is
was an
like a
advanced technique.
you. Yeah,
And
yeah. You jumped into the deep end. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend you jump in the deep end right away. Start off light.
No,
Well, thank you, JAYD. I look forward to working with you again. And everybody
for
knows
sure,
how to
for
get a
sure.
hold of you.
Right.
And why wouldn't you? Let's do this thing. Let's move on with the new era.
Great. Thank you for the invite, and we'll connect really soon.
I'm glad to hear that, my friend, and love to you and your family.
All right. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Take care.